She hid the will and called me forgetful. The bank manager read the backup copy. I filed years ago. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. The lobby went quiet, pens froze mid-signature, and my daughter-in-law's smile fell like a cheap earring. Mrs. Marlowe, the manager said, lifting a sealed envelope with my initials embossed. This is the prior, notarized directive you deposited for safekeeping, timestamped, witnessed, and logged. Lydia blinked. She gets confused. I tapped the counter, read it. He did, out loud, clause by clause. The charitable scholarship, the trustee succession, and the reversion clause that triggers if anyone tampers with documents or tries to sideline me as incompetent without a court evaluation. Lydia's phone vibrated. She didn't look down. Still think I'm confused? I asked. Let's talk privately, she murmured. We just did, I said. I'm Evelyn Marlowe, 68, widow, former ICU nurse who still alphabetizes pill bottles and dates leftovers with a Sharpie. My world is small on purpose. A blue bungalow, a lemon tree that never quits, and a kitchen radio that knows every Sinatra bridge. On Sundays, I bake cinnamon rolls the size of softballs and hide the best two in the bread box for my grandson, Henry. Gran, these are illegal, he said last month, cheeks sugared. Tell Congress, I told him, sliding a paper napkin his way. The napkin had a tiny oil ring in one corner. Nothing then, but I remember details the way some people remember song lyrics. Lydia, Henry's mother, and my late son's wife started coming earlier than the rolls needed. She'd arrive with a tote bag and a smile that felt taut like a bowstring. You shouldn't stand so long, Evie, she said, moving my step stool 2 inches without asking. I'll organize your meds. My friend's app color codes them. I own a Sharpie, I said. She laughed like I'd told a joke. We're modernizing you. She modernized other things, my desk drawers, the art on my fridge, even the sticky note I kept inside the pantry, door names and numbers for the bank, the lawyer, the alarm company. Too many numbers on display, she said, and peeled it away with a citrus-scented wipe. I'll put all this in a binder. You'll put my sticky note back, I said. Of course. She didn't. In the afternoons, she'd suggest tea. Herbal, she said, unwrapping a triangle sachet with gold thread. It smelled pretty floral, like the perfume she wore, a vanilla note that lingered in the hall. The first time, the tea had a faint bitter aftertaste. I blamed the chipped mug. I'll buy new mugs, she offered. I like these, I said, running my thumb over the chip I could find without looking. She stood behind me while I checked the mail. You don't need to stress yourself with bills, she'd say. Forward everything to me and I'll sift. I've been sifting since the Carter administration, I said. I'm trained. She smiled like a coach letting a player run one more lap. You're incredible. Then little tugs began. Envelopes gone missing. My housekeep migrating from the bowl by the door to the bottom of my purse. A file tab flipped backward. Marlowe Trust's primary, not the way I left it. And a visitor card from North Harbor Credit Union slipped under my front mat as if delivered by a shy ghost. Did you go to the bank? I asked her one Thursday, keeping my tone light while I wiped flour off the rooster timer. I swung by 4 Henry's 529 thing, she said. You can't park there after 4? It's a nightmare. My late husband, Bill, used to tap his wedding band twice on the counter when something didn't add up. I tapped mine once. The sound felt small in the kitchen. Evie, she said softly, have you thought about making things easier? A power of attorney. God forbid something happens, but I have a trust, I said. Drafted, funded, witnessed. It runs like an old clock. Clocks need winding. She stroked the lemon rind in my hands like it was a living pet. My friend's a doctor. She does quick memory screens. No big deal, just baseline. My baseline is fine, I said. She arranged the lemons in a perfect pyramid and touched the top one, just enough to wobble the stack. Henry crashed in, backpack thumping his knee, saving us. Gran, coach moved practice. Can we borrow the truck Saturday? For what? I asked. Lydia said storage, he said between breaths. Boxes from the garage. She wants space for the new freezer. The garage is full of tools, I said. They know my hands. Henry, Lydia cut in. Too smooth. Gran's tools are heavy. She hurt her back. I carried charts that weighed more than you, I said. And I drove that truck cross-country with a broken fan belt. Twice. Lydia kissed the top of Henry's head. She tells the best stories. That night, at the sink with the window cracked, the radio low, I felt it. a small press of fatigue behind my eyes that wasn't ordinary. The herbal tea had been stronger. Or maybe I was older. I turned the mug, watched the thin tide line pull back from the porcelain, and sniffed. A floral note I didn't own, under the vanilla. Not bad, just strange like garden center air. I poured it out. The drain coughed and swallowed. The sound should have been nothing. It wasn't. In bed, I slid my lockbox key under the lace doily on my nightstand left side. Not right, the way Bill hated. Don't hide from yourself, he used to say. You'll outsmart you. I smiled in the dark. Watch me, I whispered. The next morning, I found my pantry sticky note back where it belonged, except the numbers for the bank manager and my attorney were transposed. I stood there with my coffee going cool, the ceramic too hot at the rim, and felt a hollow open in my chest, like the moment before a monitor alarm starts to sing. Modernizing, I said to the empty kitchen. The rooster timer ticked in a steady, smug rhythm. The call came at 4:11 p.m., smack in the lull between Henry's practice pickup and the radio's top-of-the-hour news. Mrs. Marlowe, a calm male voice. Nathan Klein, North Harbor Credit Union, for security. Last four of your social and your safe word. 6-2-3-5. I said, safe word is Sinatra, thank you. Are you approving today's request to add a new attorney in fact under a durable power of attorney? Name on the form, Lydia Ann Pierce. My thumb went cold against the phone. No, I am not. Then, I'm glad I called, he said. A POA packet was presented, scanned, signature dated last week. Notarization stamp from a mobile notary. The request would allow broad account authority and safe deposit access. We placed a courtesy hold, pending voice confirmation. Who brought it in? Our visitor log shows, L. Pierce assisting, elder client, timestamp 3:02 p.m. She said you were resting. I was baking, I said, and the words came out like a diagnosis. He lowered his voice. For your awareness, the notary's commission number checks out, but the signature witness lines are blank. That's non-compliant for our internal acceptance. May I send you the PDF to review? You may send it to my lawyer, I said, and you may not accept any document until I appear in person. Yes, ma'am. I hung up. The kitchen looked the same lemon pyramid, rooster timer, neat stack of bills, but the edges had a new hum. I opened the drawer where I keep my magnifying glass, the one bill called Your Detective Monocle. Beside it lay a greeting card I didn't remember buying, pale blue with lilies, the inside blank, the envelope unsealed. Two faint practice loops marked the lower right, like someone had tried signing my name and quit mid-E. I held it under the light. The pen stroke pressure wasn't mine. The upstrokes were timid. I could feel my pulse in my jaw. The front door clicked. Lydia's voice floated down the hall. Eve, we brought soup. Henry barreled in first, all limbs and good intentions. Gran, coach says Hio, wow, it smells like cinnamon. Lydia followed with a paper bag and that vanilla floral perfume. You didn't have to bake. I told Henry we'd bring dinner, but you're impossible. Let me see it, I said. See what? Her smile didn't move. The power of attorney you submitted at the bank at 3:02 p.m. Henry froze mid-step, backpack sliding off his shoulder. Mom, she blinked once, then laughed soft, incredulous. Eve, you've been mixing up times lately. We were at Target. Target on Dock Street does not validate for the credit union, I said. Also, Nathan Klein says hello. Color rose under her makeup. You must have misunderstood. I held up the blank card. Whose is this? Henry, she said too brightly. Did you? Henry looked stricken. I didn't, Gran, I swear. I set the card down like evidence and moved to the pantry. The sticky note, my numbers hung neat as a hymn. Only the bank and attorney lines were still transposed. Put these back where they go, I said without turning. Evie, you're making a scene, Lydia whispered. That's what people say right before they roll out a stretcher, I said. Sit. She didn't, so I did the next thing I always do. I went procedural. I pulled a sheet from my legal pad, wrote today's date, time, and the words, phone call, bank attempted POA, visitor log, L. Pierce, notary, mobile, witness lines blank, chain of custody begins at the first note. If nursing taught me anything, it's that. Lydia set the soup on the counter. The bag rustled like a nervous animal. I was trying to help, she said, just to have something in place. Everyone says everyone doesn't forge, I said. I didn't forge anything. Then you'll be comfortable with clarity. I opened the cabinet above the fridge and pulled down my red file. Marlowe Trust. The tab was still flipped backward from last week. I opened to the contents page and ran my finger to the line that mattered. Section 7. Successor, trustee, contingency. Any attempt to alter fiduciary control without my written consent triggers reversion assets to the scholarship fund and the historical society. Henry's eyes bounced between us. What does that mean? It means if someone tries to jump the line, I said gently, the line goes away. Lydia exhaled, steadying herself. You're punishing me for planning. I'm protecting myself from being erased, I said. Different project. The kettle clicked off on its own, as if siding with me. I poured water into my chipped mug and reached for the tea tin Lydia liked. The sachets inside were a neat row of triangles except one, which wore a different tag entirely. The typeface was off. The gold thread dollar, new brand, I asked. She glanced, shook her head quickly. They all looked the same, not to me. I plucked the odd one by its knot and sniffed. Floral with a bitter green afternote, like oleander bushes in August. In the unit we lost a patient to homemade heart T1's digitalis poisoning from foxglove brewed in a pretty cup, cardiac glycosides textbook. Not an accusation, a memory. I slipped the strange sachet into a small zip-top bag from the junk drawer and initialed across the seal. Chain of custody, I said when Lydia stared. You're being ridiculous. I'm being alive. The kitchen timer ticked on. Outside, someone's sprinkler hissed in Ivan Arcs. Lydia reached for Henry's wrist. We should go, she said. Stay, I told him. We're going to talk to Mr. Klein tomorrow morning. Together. To do what? Lydia's tone frayed. To review the document you say you didn't file, I said, and to meet the sealed backup copy I filed years ago, in case anyone called me forgetful. Lydia's jaw tightened. You can't talk to me like I'm the enemy. Then stop acting like one, I said. And the room decided to keep that sentence. At 9:01 a.m., the bank doors unlocked with a hollow click. Henry walked beside me like a rookie bailiff. Lydia trailed, sunglasses on, though the sky was gray. Nathan Klein met us in the lobby. Mrs. Marlowe, he nodded to Henry. Mr. Pierce, then to Lydia. Ms. Pierce, we're here to clear up a misunderstanding, Lydia said, bright as a showroom lamp. In the conference room, Klein said, professional neutral. He laid out a slim stack. Visitor log printout, POA packet, audit trail. Per policy, I'll narrate as we go. 3:02 p.m. Yesterday, ID scanned, L. Pierce, purpose stated. Assist elder client. Witness lines blank. We don't accept blank witness lines for POAs. We also flagged the signature variance. Variance, I asked. Our software compares angle and pressure against known exemplars. Your E typically hooks at 1 o'clock. This one dives from 11, not dispositive, but suggestive. Lydia sat straighter. This is harassment. I was trying to be proactive. Proactivity doesn't need my name, I said. Klein slid the final piece forward, a thick envelope with my embossed initials. And this is the sealed backup you deposited. Your Trust S earlier directive with an addendum filed 5 years ago, reviewed last winter. He broke the seal, confirmed my consent to open, then read the addendum out loud. Language about reversion if anyone attempted to alter fiduciary control, without my consent or accorded capacity finding. Lydia's voice thinned. She's making me sound like a thief. No, I said gently. The paper is. Henry swallowed. Can we not fight? Just do what's right. What's right, I said, is clarity. I dialed my lawyer on speaker. Hart, it's Evelyn. We're at North Harbor. Attempted POA, witness lines blank, sealed backup opened. I need next steps. Attorney Maya Hart's voice came smooth and fast. Photograph every page. Maintain chain of custody. Nathan, please preserve all logs and surveillance stills from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. yesterday and generate a notarized custodian Evercords affidavit. Klein nodded, already typing. Evelyn, Hart continued. I'm filing a temporary restraining order against any third-party financial actions under your name. Also, book an independent neurocognitive evil today. Guardianship, POA games, lean on she's forgetful. We control that narrative with data. Coffee, I said. Henry's relief showed in his shoulders. Lydia stood, palms flat on the glass. You're treating me like a criminal, like a relative we love who's made troubling choices, I said. Sit, please. Klein returned with a USB drive in a labeled evidence envelope. Lobby camera stills, front desk, bodycam audio, and the captured PDF with metadata. He signed across the flap. I initialed will freeze, safe deposit, access pending court guidance. Outside, rain started soft. Lydia tugged Henry's sleeve. Tell your grandmother she's overreacting. He looked at her, then me. Mom, if it's a misunderstanding, it'll clear. If it's not, she blinked hard. You're picking a side. I'm picking facts, he said. At the clinic, Hart had already faxed orders. The neuropsychologist, a woman with kind eyes and a poker face, walked me through memory, executive function, clock draw. You like order, she observed. It likes me back, I said. We both smiled. After, I handed over a small zip-top bag. This is a tea sachet from my kitchen. Unusual tag. Bitter, floral odor. Please log, seal, and send for tox cardiac glycosides panel. Digoxin, digitoxin, oleandrin, chain of custody started yesterday. Labeled and initialed. She didn't flinch. We'll forward it to the reference lab. Expect a report with assay method and detection thresholds. Back home, I opened my kitchen drawer and photographed the pale blue card with the practice loops. Then I called the mobile notary listed on the POA. Hi, this is Evelyn Marlowe. Yesterday a commission notarized a POA in my name. I need your logbook entry. A pause. I don't have my book in front of me. By law, you maintain a journal with signers, IDs, thumbprints in some cases. And the location, I said, voice calm. Nurse firm, I can meet you wherever you prefer so you can copy the entry. Another pause. I heard muffled whispering. I was told it was a hospital visit. The signer was resting. I don't sign in my sleep, I said. Where did you place your stamp? I shouldn't. You should, I said, and gave Hart's number. Counsel will follow up. I hung up and found Henry in the garage, running his hand along the handle of Bill's old torque wrench. Gran, he said quietly. Coach says I'm good under pressure. I guess we'll see. We're a team, I said. Investigations run on teams. He nodded. What now? Now, I said. We set a trap that only the guilty will trip. By dusk, Hart had news. 2 hits, she said on speaker while Henry and I sat at the kitchen table with Bill's old desk lamp throwing a legal drama, circle of light. First, the bank lobby cam shows Lydia didn't come alone. She arrived with a couple in their 50s who identified themselves as her parents, vouching that you're declining, and asked them to step in. I ran reverse image on the dad. He's not her father. He's a gig actor from a wellness clinic brochure. Henry's eyebrows shot up. Staged parents. Second, Hart continued. The notary with commission doesn't match the face on the bank cam. Either someone used her stamp, or she lent it. Both violations. I've flagged it to the Secretary of State's office. I looked at the pale blue card on the table, the practice loops trying to be my signature. The lamp heat made the ink glisten. Next, Hart said, I subpoenaed pharmacy logs. You've been steady on your meds for years. But 2 weeks ago, there was an e-script attempt from a Dr. T. Vasquez anxiety sedative for caregiver stress, to your name, cash pay. The pharmacist rejected it for missing the info. Dr. Vasquez is licensed, but her address overlaps a place called Dock Street Wellness, LLC. Henry glanced at me. Dock Street, Target, Credit Union, Triangle, I said. Hart's voice sharpened. And listen to this. Dock Street Wellness lists a family counselor, Trent Ames. He's the same man from the bank cam pretending to be Lydia's father. He's also the registered agent for a Shell, LLC PerPoint Home Care Solutions that recently applied for a merchant account. The application asks for proof of clientele. 2 letters are from an Evelyn M. and A. Bernard H., endorsing Lydia as a caregiver. The signatures look similar. I exhaled slowly. They're building a paper trail to show dependency. Exactly, Hart said. And I'm not finished. Your homeowner's insurer flagged a call last Thursday asking how to list a caregiver as a named driver on your truck. Caller ID, a prepaid line tied to PeerPoint's account. Henry's jaw worked. So what's the play? We stay clean and let them prove what we already suspect, Hart said. Evelyn, check your safe. If they're going to argue you're incompetent, they'll also try to disappear the will that contradicts their narrative. I hung up, stood, and crossed to the bedroom. The nightstand doily lay in its lace obedience. I lifted it and froze. The lockbox key was exactly where I'd left it, left side, not right, but the drawer runners had a smear of citrus oil, Lydia's wipes. I took the key, knelt at the closet floor safe, and turned the dial by muscle memory. Inside, the red Marlowe Trust primary binder, birth certificates, bills, and my stomach tightened. A narrow, empty slot where my original will packet should have been. Henry, I said, voice even. Bring me the bread box. He blinked. The bread box. The old steel one. I put good things where thieves won't look. He returned with the chipped robin's egg box that kept cinnamon rolls safe from prying midnight hands. I reached inside the false bottom Bill had soldered years ago for vintage baseball cards and found a sealed Tyvek envelope labeled in my hand. Will original sealed. The tape line was intact. The notary seal visible through the paper like a fossil. Henry let out a breath. They didn't find it. They thought they did, I said, nodding toward the empty slot, which means someone's been in my safe. Back at the table, I laid both the Tyvek envelope and the blank lily card under the lamp. Plant and pay off, I murmured. Gran. Henry asked. I planted redundancy. They paid me the courtesy of confirming I needed it. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I put it on speaker. Evelyn Marlowe, a smooth female voice. Mrs. Marlowe, this is Dr. Teresa Vasquez. Lydia asked me to check in. She's worried about your memory. If it's easier, I can come to your home for a quick capacity screen. Doctor, I said, do you usually cold call patients you've never met to perform legal capacity evaluations in their kitchens? It's just a friendly wellness visit, she said. 10 minutes. I prefer formal channels, I said. If you've ordered meds or billed any services to my name, please email my attorney your records. Silence. Then, I'm sure this is a misunderstanding. That word is working overtime, I said, and ended the call. Hart texted a moment later. We tapped the file. Lydia's voice calm at the counter. She forgets puts keys in the freezer. We're just helping. Then the man's lower tone, the fake father. Poor thing stubborn. We're her only family left. I paused it. Keys in the freezer, I said softly. Henry looked at the fridge. Grant. I opened the freezer and pulled out the lemon ice tray. Nestled among cubes, my truck keys wrapped in a paper napkin with a tiny oil ring, the same ring from the cinnamon roll napkin, planted to match the lie. Henry's cheeks flushed. They staged you. I held the keys under the lamplight, the cold metal sweating in my palm. And in staging, people get sloppy, I said. They copy details they don't understand. That oil ring tells me whose napkin it is. Mom's, he said, grim. I took a breath, steadying the nurse inside me, who loved a clean protocol. Okay. We have motive, money, and control. Means, paperwork, and pills. And now, a method staged incompetence with a corrupt clinician and fake parents to grease guardianship. That flips our board, Henry nodded. So, what do we do? We invite them into a room they think they run, I said. And let bank policy, a notary journal, and my backup will do the talking. The lamp hummed. The lemon tree outside knocked the window to soft taps, like Bill's old ring on the counter when numbers didn't add. Hart's plan was surgical. Invite them to an annual review of the trust at North Harbor, she said. Room wired for audio. Court reporter present, neutral notary, Klein as custodian. Secretary of State's investigator will drop by recommission bait, I said. Procedure, Hart corrected. 2 packets. A. The real directive, reaffirming no POA changes without your written consent or court capacity finding. B. A blank discussion, draft watermarked and page numbered. If anyone pockets paper, security stops them. Your neurocog letter hits my inbox at 9:00 a.m., and the T. Henry asked. Reference labs running cardiac glycosides. We wait for numbers, I called Lydia. Annual review, 10 sharp. Bring whoever you like. Finally, she said, relief dripping. That night we staged the way ICU teams stage a code. Pens counted, pages pre-stamped, recorder tested, evidence envelopes labeled. I slid the sealed Tyvek Will original into my tote and photographed the conference table baseline condition. Morning rain cleaned the air. Klein greeted us. The notary opened her journal to a fresh line. The court reporter's keys whispered. At 10:06, Lydia arrived with the same parents from the lobby video. Mom, Dad, this is Evelyn, she said. Hart smiled. Names for the record. They complied. I set packet A on the glass. Read the reaffirmation. Nathan, he read. No POA changes, no successor swap. Reversion clause unchanged. Lydia's mouth flattened. The man's eyes slid to packet B labeled discussion draft. Ms. Pierce, Hart said evenly. Please return any originals removed from Ms. Marlowe's safe. Lydia laughed too hard. We don't have anything. The door opened. A woman with a badge, Secretary of State, Notary Enforcement, here for commission. The fake father's smile twitched. Random, scheduled, I said, folding my hands, and recorded. The badge flashed again. Inspector Dana Cho, Notary Enforcement, she said, setting a slim gray case on the table. Roll call for the record. Ms. Marlowe, Counsel Hart, Mr. Klein, court reporter present. Ms. Pierce, you're here with Margaret and Thomas Pierce, Lydia said, chin up. Inspector Cho tapped her tablet. IDs, please. They produced 2 driver's licenses. Cho's brow barely moved. Interesting. Same headshots used on a Dock Street wellness brochure under different names. She slid printouts across the glass. Sir, you're Trent Ames. Ma'am, you're Delia Warren. Either the IDs are fraudulent or the brochure is. Pick one. The man's smile fell in sections. This is ridiculous, noted Cho said, turning to Klein. Bank hems from 14:30 to 15:30 yesterday. Klein handed over the evidence envelope. Lobby stills, front desk audio, custodian affidavit signed, chain intact. CHGO opened her gray case. A familiar brass stamp gleamed inside. Commission, we recovered this from a Dock Street office this morning. The named notary Ms. Locken reported it missing last week. Lending or using a commission not yours is a violation. Using it to notarize a POA without the signer present is a crime. Hart slid a document forward, and here are the visitor logs and the PDF metadata showing a 15:04 creation time, with GPS tags from Dock Street, not Mrs. Marlowe's residence or a hospital. Lydia's voice thinned. I never said hospital. The mobile notary did, Hart said. On a recorded call, and your parents vouched for incompetency at the counter. She glanced at the reporter. All on the record. Klein cleared his throat. Per trust instructions and our internal policy, any attempt to alter fiduciary control without Ms. Marlowe's written consent triggers a custodial freeze. Effective now, safe deposit access is suspended. Disbursements pause pending court direction. He opened a new envelope, the one with my embossed initials, and read the reaffirmation again. Voice even undeniable. The conference phone chimed. Hart answered. Go. She listened, then put it on speaker. Reference lab report on the tea sachet. LCMS, MS detected oleandrin at 9.6 ng/ml in the brewed sample. Digitoxin and digoxin not detected. Method, solid phase extraction. Internal standard controls passed. Chain of custody ID matches Miss Marlowe's initials and timestamps. Cho looked up. Oleander, a cardiac glycosa. Also, Hart added, sliding in a second letter, independent neurocognitive evil. This morning, executive function intact. No evidence of incapacity. Silence worked the room like a pressure cuff. Henry spoke first, small but steady. Mom. Lydia blinked hard. I didn't make tea. I handled. Trent Ames, Cho said, turning. You're also the registered agent for Pierpoint Home Care Solutions. That merchant account application includes 2 letters allegedly from Evelyn M. and Bernard H. She placed the pale blue greeting card beside the letters. Same timid upstrokes. Same pressure pattern. Mr. Ames, did you write these? Ames' jaw flexed. Lawyer. Good idea, Hart said. Because there's more. She flipped a page. Homeowner, S. Insurer, recorded a call to add a caregiver as a named driver on Mrs. Marlowe's truck caller ID, tied to Pierpoint, and North Harbor's metadata shows your PDF was composed on a Dock Street machine at 15:04, 10 minutes after your lobby appearance. Witnessed lines blank, as flagged. Klein checked his monitor. Fraud hold confirmed. Ms. Marlowe's reversion clause is now noted across all accounts. Lydia reached for Henry. He stepped back not far, but enough. I never meant, she began. Ma'am, Cho said, at minimum, you participated in presenting a fraudulent notarization and misrepresenting relatives to financial staff. Mr. Ames, Ms. Warren, you're coming with me. She nodded toward the doorway. 2 uniformed officers stepped in, calm as winter. Plastic ties clicked. Lydia's shoulders crumpled. Evie, please. I folded my hands. You hid the will and called me forgetful, I said softly. The bank manager read the backup copy I filed years ago. The rest is tape and times. Hart addressed the reporter. Mark the time. 10:58. Outside, the rain had stopped. In the glass, we were a reflection of facts. A sealed envelope, a brass stamp, a boy who chose truth, and a woman who kept receipts. Lydia didn't leave with the officers. She sat very small in a very big chair, while Cho finished paperwork and Hart summarized next steps. Emergency protective order around my accounts. I noticed to the probate court about attempted interference and referrals for fraud and notary violations. Klein escorted the parents out in quiet handcuffs. The court reporter packed the truth into a tidy case. In the lobby, Lydia reached for Henry again. Baby, please, I was drowning. After your dad died, the bills, I thought if I proved your grandmother needed me on paper, Pierpoint would hire me on real pay, real hours. Trent said, it's how families do it. Henry's voice frayed. By poisoning tea. I didn't know what was in it, she said, choking. He said, just calm her down. I swear I never meant. I stepped between them, gentle but immovable. Intent matters. So do outcomes. Hart joined us. Lydia, my client will not discuss this without counsel present. You'll be served with a notice of no contact pending hearing. If you'd like resources for legitimate caregiver work, I'll email a list. No Dock Street, no shells. Lydia nodded, tears too late. I'm sorry, Evelyn. I'm sorry, too, I said. For Henry, outside, the lemon tree glittered with rain. We drove home quiet. In my kitchen, I set the sealed Tyvek envelope back in the bread box, snapped a photo, and texted Hart for the file. She replied with the neurocog letter and the lab report. I printed both and slid them into the red binder. Evidence sleeps better in paper. Henry stood at the sink, tracing that chip in the mug. Gran, do you hate her? I don't have room for hate, I said. I have room for boundaries. He nodded, eyes wet. Can I still see her? When it's safe and supervised, I said. And when she's honest? He exhaled. Okay. The radio found Sinatra. The rooster timer ticked like a pulse, finding its rhythm again. I breathed with its slow in, steady out. A nurse off duty but not asleep. A week later, the house felt like itself again, quiet, lemon bright, the rooster timer steady, instead of smug. Hart filed the orders. Klein confirmed the custodial flags. Inspector Cho's office emailed that formal charges against Dock Street and its parents were pending. Lydia retained counsel, entered a diversion program. And per the court has no access to my accounts, keys, or medications. Henry visits her with his coach present. Clear lines, no hate, just boundaries. I built guardrails you can touch. The Red Marlowe Trust primary now includes 1. A notarized reaffirmation with fresh witnesses. 2. My neurocog letter. 3. The lab report with oleandrin spelled out in ink. And for a one-page if I'm ever forgetful checklist, Henry and I wrote together who to call, what to ask, where the real documents live, not the safe's empty slot but the bread box's false bottom. The bank keeps the sealed backup copy. The lawyer keeps a third. 3 clocks, all wound. At church, I posted the first flyer for the Angela Ruiz Scholarship named for the teller who once refused a shaky signature. We'll fund 2 nursing students a year. Stipulation, they learn chain of custody better than Storyovu. On my porch, Henry leaned on the rail and watched the lemon tree shift. You still trust me with the truck? He asked. You earned it twice, I said, tossing him the keys. I thought of Lydia S. Line, Forgetful, and the day the bank manager read the backup copy ID filed years ago. She hid the will. I filed the future. If you're still here, thanks for listening. I'll meet you in the comments. Your voice matters.